My name is Natalie Carter. I'm 28 years old. I only meant to be inside for 90 seconds, grab the charger, close the gate, go home. The neighborhood smelled like cut grass and diesel from a leaf blower, and my hands still had the faint grit of a late shift at the IT desk. I made lists for everything: passwords, backup images, a folder called records that looked boring and kept me breathing. So a missing charger was an irritation, not a crisis. Then the backyard sounded like a different country. Kids screaming, a DJ cutting the chorus of something sugary, a voice bouncing into a microphone like a small mayor. I stepped through the side gate out of curiosity and walked into a manufactured storm of pink, an inflatable unicorn the size of a car, a banner arching like a promise: Our princess turns 6. Cotton candy cart, face painter, a man in a rented Pegasus suit high-fiving toddlers. I blinked 3 times, the way you do when your brain is buffering. Hey, I started. Hi, Nat. You weren't on the list, Mom said, smiling the smile she used when she wanted to be kind enough to sting. She patted my arm like I was an appliance who'd wandered into the living room. Close family only. Close family only was a velvet rope that had become a custom here. The important things reserved for a curated few, and the rest of us invited to cheer from the cheap seats. I looked at the catering tent, at balloon tunnels, at the ice sculpture that was already softening into a pink puddle. I scanned the faces, the phones in hands, the people who'd shown up with checks and wrappers and performances. Then she lowered her voice because some privacies feel safer as conspiracies. Your card covered the $13,800. Consider it a gift, she said, delighted and casual at once. For a second, the world tilted like a badly leveled picture. Then my phone buzzed in my back pocket. 3 fraud alerts from my bank. I felt the burn of something cold in my throat. Mom, I said slow, like I was naming a weather system. How? She fixed me with the same easy cheer she used for dinner invitations. Oh, you said to keep a card on file for emergencies, remember? After the truck tires. Her smile never wavered. That remember was the wedge. One small favor. A time when he needed tires and she had called, and I, sighing because I did, gave my backup card the way you hand someone a bandage. One time turned into 4 emergencies. Emergencies became, we can't find Dad's wallet. The florist won't hold the bouquet. Grace's recital shoes. Just $42. Just $118. Friday mirrored into Friday until my spreadsheet looked less like habit keeping and more like a ledger of exploitation. March 14th, $312.17. April 2nd, $87.99. May 21st, $1,200. Tiny hemorrhages adding up to hemorrhages day by day. Grace, who in my life had been the one with the big laugh and the brighter filters, emerged in a crown and white sneakers, kissing the air near my cheek with the practiced tenderness of a person who wants the world to think she is loved. Don't be weird about money, Nat, she said. We'll post about you after. Best uncle. She made a joke and kissed the camera. In the videos, she'd always look golden. Uncle. The word sat on my tongue like someone else's name. I found myself holding my phone, a ridiculous small object that somehow had become the last honest ledger of my life. I tapped start a call, put it on speaker. The 5 words cracked out of me, more like a command than a question. Hi, I'd like to report. The bank agent's canned politeness landed in my ears. Unauthorized charges at a private residence. I read the amounts out loud, and the party seemed to pause to listen. $4,800, Princess Playland Rentals, $300, Sugar Cloud Events, $2,400, DJ Pegasus LLC, $1,700, Balloon Dreams, $1,800, Pets and Hooves. The DJ cut the music with the casualness of a technician changing a channel. Even the goats seemed to register the shift, like an animal sense that adults were suddenly doing something wrong. My father's jaw tightened. He moved in my direction as though to block the air between me and Mom. The woman in the coordinator's clipboard flapped pages like a calendar in a windstorm and read aloud, G. Carter, with Mom's number. The word forged is small and ugly. I felt it enter my mouth with a quiet, steady clarity. You forged my name again, I said to my mother, because the coordinator's copy of the contract matched the handwriting we used at family potlucks and the number that texted for babysitting. Mom made a sound like a refrigerator trying to be gentle. Forged? I am your mother, she said. That's not a legal defense, I said, and something in the crowd, an aunt who liked to speak for the room, whispered that I was being dramatic. I finished the call to the bank. Please freeze the card and open a claim. I will destroy this card and I will take action if this repeats. I took kitchen shears from the dessert table like it was the most natural thing to do. The metallic snip of edges was a little domestic execution. My card cut cleanly in two and set on a napkin. The sound felt final the way a judge's gavel might. Someone said, "You're ruining Mia's birthday." The accusation soft as tissue but pointed as a knife. I looked at Mia, who was smeared in frosting and delighted with a small toothless grin, and I thought of the difference between a child's joy and a theater of joy built on other people's credit limits. Adults did this, I said, not her. The coordinator paused services. Vendors hovered. Pink fog sagged into a quiet that felt like a held breath. I told the woman with the clipboard the truth and gave the bank claim number as if it were a ticket stub proving I'd been present at the moment of my own defense. I left through the balloon tunnel the way people leave a performance, a little embarrassed, a little exhilarated. On the street, my phone filled up with missed calls, Mom, Dad, Grace, and unknown numbers from vendors. I texted the case number to each of them, like dispatching a small, steady flame of fact. At home, I made pasta and burned the garlic, because burning something familiar tastes like reclaiming normalcy. I sat at my table and changed passwords while the house washed itself in silence. My spreadsheet, that ridiculous map of minor betrayals, glowed on my laptop like a small, righteous talisman. I am not an appliance. I have a PIN number, a credit file, an ability to say no. Saying it out loud at a pink party with a Pegasus suit flapping its wings felt like stepping into a new neighborhood of myself. It was the first time I had spoken the words that would make them rearrange their expectations. The rest, the alarms, the apologies, the petty punishments, and the love bombing had not yet arrived, but the signal had been sent. My phone didn't stop shaking that night. Calls, texts, voicemails, guilt written in a dozen tones. Mom, you made us look foolish. Grace, you ruined Mia's memories. Dad, you owe your family respect. Each notification was another ping of entitlement disguised as concern. By midnight, my chest ached from the noise. So I did what I always do when chaos hits. I opened my spreadsheet. The numbers didn't lie. They never had. I scrolled past the newest entry. June 18th, $13,800, unauthorized charges, claim filed, and let my eyes fall to the older ones. The quiet thefts that built the avalanche. March 14th, $312.17. Caterer only takes deposits. April 2nd, $87.99. Mia's recital shoes. May 21st, $1,200, non-refundable venue hold. There were dozens more, each with its little excuse. I'd called it bridging once, the space between what they promised and what actually got paid. My mother loved that word. You're just bridging for us until things even out, she'd said last winter. Family helps family. But bridges rot when only one side maintains them. That night, I made a new column, repayments received. It stayed empty. The next morning, the group chat looked like a PR campaign. Grace had posted filtered photos from the first hour of the party. Before I froze the card, before the fog machine sighed its last pink breath. Caption: Magical moments for our princess. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for making it perfect. Hundreds of likes. Comments from neighbors. No mention of me, the accidental sponsor. I almost laughed. It was like watching someone build a castle out of smoke. Fragile, pretty, and dishonest. At 11:03 a.m., my phone rang again. Unknown number. I answered. Ms. Carter, this is Sugar Cloud Events. We need confirmation on the payment reversal. Contact the signer, I said calmly. Her name's Grace Carter. I'm not responsible. The silence on the other end was the kind that follows the realization you've been dealing with the wrong adult. By noon, 5 other vendors had called. I copied and pasted my reply to each one, ending every message with, unauthorized charge. Contact the contract holder. Case number 88421. It became a mantra, detached, efficient, the way you speak when you're done apologizing for other people's messes. At 4:17 p.m., Mom finally showed up at my apartment. She didn't knock. She used the spare key I'd forgotten to take back. "Natalie," she said sharply, stepping inside like she owned the air, "you went too far. Do you understand how humiliating that was for us?" I turned from the sink, still holding a wet plate. "For you?" I asked quietly. "Mom, you stole from me." She flinched, then straightened her cardigan like armor. "I borrowed, and I meant to pay you back. You just made a scene." "That's what people say when they get caught," I said. "You've changed," she said coldly. "You used to care about family." I wiped my hands and faced her fully. "I still do. That's why I finally stopped letting you treat me like a bank." The silence that followed felt dangerous, like a floor ready to split. Then she sighed, the long, performative kind that said, "I raised you better than this." "You're ungrateful," she whispered. "All we've done for you." "Mom," I interrupted, "you used my card for a pony rental." That landed like a slap. Her face hardened. "You'll regret embarrassing us. You think people don't talk?" "I'm sure they do," I said. "But this time, the story's true." She stood there, jaw trembling, not from guilt, but from losing control of the narrative. Then she threw the spare key on my counter, metal clinking like punctuation. "When you come to your senses, we'll talk," she said, and walked out. The door shut and my apartment exhaled. That night, I burned the garlic again. I didn't mind. There was something comforting about imperfection that belonged only to me. I poured a glass of wine and opened my laptop. I created a new folder titled Boundaries. Inside it, I saved screenshots. Bank claim emails, text messages from Mom, Grace's voice notes where she swung from crying to threatening in under 60 seconds. Each file had a timestamp, each one a breadcrumb trail of proof. My therapist once told me, "When people like that lose access to your compliance, they'll rewrite history. Keep receipts." So I did, literally. At midnight, I received another text. "Grace. Mia cried herself to sleep. She thinks you hate her." I typed, then erased 3 different replies. Finally, I wrote, "I love Mia, but I don't love being used." Then I deleted it before sending. Some truths weren't meant for people who refused to hear them. 2 days later, the fallout hit social media. Mom posted a photo of her and Grace under a caption that made my stomach twist. "Family is forgiveness. Love always wins. Strong women. Blessed." Underneath, someone commented, "Where's Natalie?" Mom replied, "Busy. She's independent now." I stared at the screen until my eyes blurred. Then I laughed. Because yes, I was independent now, just not in the way she meant. I went to my window. The city lights blinked like quiet signals, each one a reminder that life existed beyond obligation. I thought of my bank account, frozen card, new passwords, and that half-eaten bowl of overcooked pasta. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. And that, after years of being close family only, felt like the richest thing I'd ever owned. 3 mornings later, I woke to 37 unread messages, the digital equivalent of pounding on my door. Mom had moved from fury to strategy. "Mom, we should talk over dinner." Grace, "You made your point. Now fix it." And Dad, "Your mother's heart can't take this." The word fix echoed in all of them, like I'd broken the family machine instead of refusing to keep fueling it. I ignored the first dozen, then the next. By noon, my phone rang again, this time from Dad. He never called. He texted, grunted, delegated through Mom. Hearing his voice after 2 days of silence was like hearing thunder in a clear sky. "Natalie," he began, formal, "we're not asking for much. Just smooth it over. Apologize. Grace is under pressure. People are talking." "I know," I said quietly. "She's good at that." He didn't get it. He sighed. "Your mother says you want revenge." I looked at my apartment, small, quiet, filled with bills I paid myself. "If revenge looks like peace, then yes," I said. He went silent long enough that I thought the line dropped. Then, "You think money replaces family. It doesn't." "No," I said, "but boundaries might save it." That was the first time I'd said the word boundaries to my father. He reacted like I'd spoken a foreign language. "Your pride will make you lonely," he said, in the tone of a man quoting scripture. "Maybe," I said, "but it's mine to live with." He hung up without a goodbye. The next afternoon, I found a letter slipped under my door. No envelope, just printer paper, folded twice. It was from Mom. "We're family. You don't take family to the bank. You made a public spectacle. Your sister can't show her face in town. Mia keeps asking why Aunt Natalie hates birthdays." At the bottom, in looping pen. We love you, but you're being dramatic. The sentence read like a spell they'd repeated all my life, their favorite way to shrink me back into silence. So I opened my laptop and drafted something new. Subject, boundaries. Formal notice. To Mom, Dad, Grace. Body. I will not co-sign anything. I will not provide a card on file. Any attempt to charge my account without consent will be treated as theft. Please contact me by email only. I love you, but I'm finished being your bank. I reread it 3 times, feeling equal parts nauseous and relieved, then hit send. A minute later, Grace replied with exactly 3 words, "You're a monster." I didn't answer. That evening, my neighbor, Mrs. Patel, knocked on my door, holding a small container of dal and rice. "Your mother called me," she said softly. "She told me there was a misunderstanding." "Was there?" I asked. She gave me a long, knowing look, the kind of look women reserve for other women who've survived the same brand of manipulation. "She's heartbroken," she said. Then, after a pause, "Good for you, Beta." It was the gentlest kind of absolution. Days passed. The calls slowed. The silence filled the space like new furniture I hadn't ordered but learned to live with. On Thursday, my bank emailed, "Provisional credit approved, $13,800. Seeing the number felt surreal. Not joy, not victory, just something quietly aligned. That night, I celebrated with the smallest rebellion, a grocery store cake, $12.99, vanilla with plain frosting. No decorations, no banner, no audience. I lit a candle anyway, for myself, for the part of me that finally stopped apologizing for needing peace. The next day, Grace sent me a voice note. Her tone swung like a pendulum. "I can't believe you did this. Do you know what people are saying? Mia's been crying all week. You destroyed everything." Then a pause, a sniff, a voice softening into something performative. "Maybe if you just said sorry, we could start over. Mom's miserable, Dad's embarrassed. Don't you care?" I didn't reply. I listened to it twice, hearing how the emotion shifted right where the manipulation began. At the end of the recording, she added one more thing, barely above a whisper. "You always wanted to feel superior. Congratulations." I closed the app. It wasn't superiority. It was survival. That weekend, I met my friend Lena for coffee, one of the few people who hadn't taken sides. She listened, then said something that stuck with me. "They don't want forgiveness. They want access." That line replayed in my head all afternoon. Because that was exactly it. My family didn't want peace. They wanted their credit line back. So I went home and opened my boundaries folder again. I renamed it Proof. I wasn't preparing for a fight anymore. I was preparing for the next test, the one where they'd come wrapped in softness, asking for just one more favor. And I promised myself, the next emergency wouldn't cost me anything but a no. At midnight, another text lit up my phone. "Dad, if you loved us, you'd help us fix this." I stared at it for a long minute, then typed slowly. "I do love you. That's why I'm done being used." Then I put my phone face down, blew out the candle from the cake, and let the darkness settle like peace. By Monday morning, the silence had changed flavor. It wasn't absence, it was calculation. The kind of quiet you get before a guilt campaign begins. And sure enough, it started at 9:12 a.m. when Mom posted a status that felt aimed like an arrow. "Family is about forgiveness, not finances. Some wounds only heal when pride steps aside." Unconditional family. First, it had a photo attached. Grace, teary but angelic, holding Mia under fairy lights. It got 300 likes in an hour. The comments were predictable. So beautiful. Stay strong. Some people forget who raised them. I didn't respond. I didn't even open it again. I just forwarded a screenshot to my proof folder and named it Narrative Control, Exhibit A. By noon, I received an email from the balloon company. Subject, Payment Demand Notice. Body, if payment isn't received in 5 business days, we'll pursue collection through our legal department. My stomach tightened. They'd sent it to me, of course, because Mom had pointed them to my number, the way she'd done all my life. Volunteer me for things, then vanish when the invoice arrived. I called their office. My voice was calm, practiced. "I didn't sign the contract. You'll find Grace Carter's name and my mother's number on the agreement." A pause. Then the woman on the other end sighed. "We've heard that before. Families fight, then pay later." "Not this time," I said. "This one's in writing." I sent her the bank's claim number, screenshots of Mom's signature, and the line where the coordinator had written G. Carter. 10 minutes later, the balloon company emailed again. Understood, account adjusted, apologies for the confusion. It wasn't satisfaction I felt, it was exhaustion. The kind that seeps into your bones after years of being both scapegoat and safety net. That night, I came home to a single voicemail. Dad's voice, heavy, resigned. Your mother's crying every night. Grace can't sleep. Mia's asking questions. We didn't raise you to turn your back on blood. I sat on the edge of my bed, listening to that word, blood, as if it were a contract, not a coincidence. When the message ended, I didn't delete it. I saved it to my folder, under emotional leverage. Tuesday came with another twist. My credit alert app pinged. New account activity detected. Heart racing, I logged in. There it was, a department store card I hadn't opened, in my name, linked to Mom's email. My hands went cold. It had started again. The date on the application? 2 months before the birthday party. I hadn't missed one charge. I'd missed an entire account. I stared at the screen, the pattern suddenly clear. This wasn't a one-time mistake. It was infrastructure, an entire ecosystem of dependency built quietly behind my back. I called the credit bureau, froze everything again, filed another fraud report, and then I sat there for a long time, staring at the wall, trying to decide what hurt more, the theft or the fact that it had been planned. That evening, I walked to the park near my apartment. Families were there, the simple kind. Folding tables, store cakes, laughter that didn't sound rehearsed. A dad wore socks with sandals. A mom yelled at her twins for fighting over juice. It was chaos, but it was real. I sat on a bench and let the normalcy wash over me like clean air. My phone buzzed again. Grace. If you file another report, Mom says she'll tell everyone you've lost your mind. I almost laughed. Of course. When control fails, rewrite the narrative. If the bank says fraud, the family says overreaction. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my email and wrote 3 new messages. To my bank's fraud department, attaching the new evidence. To a lawyer friend Lana had recommended. Subject line, identity misuse. Need consultation. To myself, a note titled, Remember this calm. In the note, I wrote, You are not crazy. You are correcting the story. They only call it rebellion when you stop cooperating. 2 days later, the bank finalized both claims. $13,800 returned. The fraudulent card canceled. My credit officially locked. I looked at the total and felt, not triumphant, but right-sized. Like the ground under me had finally stopped tilting. That night, I baked something for the first time in months. A tray of lemon bars. No celebration, no guests, just sugar, butter, silence. When they cooled, I packed half into a box and dropped them at Mrs. Patel's door with a note. For listening, not judging. She texted back later. They're perfect. Just sweet enough. It felt like a blessing. On Friday, Mom sent one last message. You think you've won, but families remember. One day you'll need us again. I didn't reply. I just saved it to the folder under threats subtle. Then, for the first time in years, I closed my laptop without checking my balance. I leaned back, eyes on the ceiling, and exhaled. Peace didn't roar, it whispered. And in that quiet, I realized I didn't need to win. I just needed to stop being currency. The weeks that followed felt like stepping out of a storm and realizing the world hadn't ended. It had just gotten quiet. The first morning I woke up without a new voicemail from my mother. The silence felt unnatural. By the third, it felt sacred. I filled the quiet slowly. Mornings with coffee and open windows. Afternoons spent fixing small things in my apartment that I'd ignored. A squeaky cabinet, a loose curtain rod, a plant I'd nearly killed but was stubbornly reviving. The life I was building wasn't glamorous, but it was mine, entirely mine. One Sunday, I walked into a small grocery store, bought a $12 chocolate cake, and carried it home in both hands like something fragile. Last year, my birthday had been combined with Grace's product launch party. Mom had called it efficient. Grace had called it sweet synergy. I'd smiled through it because it was easier than fighting. This year, there were no parties, no pink fog, no guests, just me. I lit a single candle and whispered to no one, Happy birthday, Natalie. I took a photo, not for social media, for proof that I could celebrate myself without permission. That evening, I opened my laptop, not to check bank statements, but to write. Subject, personal boundaries. Final note, body. I will not co-sign your loans. I will not be your backup wallet. I will not be guilted for saying no. If you use my name or credit again, I will treat it as theft. I love you, but I also love peace. I saved it as a draft, not to send, but to keep. It was more for me than for them. By the second week, the family group chat had gone quiet. Mom stopped posting coded quotes about forgiveness. Grace stopped tagging me in stories I wasn't in. Dad stopped calling. It was eerie, but it was freedom. Then, one evening, I received a message from an unknown number. The preview line froze me mid-breath. Grace, Mia drew this for you. It was a photo, crayon on construction paper, a stick figure woman with a laptop labeled Auntie Nat. My throat tightened. Underneath, Grace had written, "She misses you, so do I." I stared at it for a long time, unsure whether it was an olive branch or another test. Then I replied, slowly, carefully, "Tell her I love her. I'll see her when we can all respect boundaries." There was no reply after that, but for once, that didn't feel like a loss. Weeks turned into a month. My bank finalized all claims. Vendors stopped calling. The proof folder sat untouched, a relic of an older version of me who had to keep evidence just to stay sane. One night I hovered over it, then right-clicked rename, from proof to peace. I didn't delete it, I just changed what it meant. The last thread came quietly, as they often do. An email from Dad. No subject line, just 2 sentences. "Your mother is upset, you need to make this right." I stared at it for a long minute before typing back. "I love you, I will not be used." Then I hit send and closed my laptop. No shaking hands, no tears, just calm. That night, I took Mia's drawing from my fridge and pinned it a little higher, right at eye level. Below it, I stuck a note to myself. "You are allowed to love people and still lock your doors." The city outside my window buzzed quietly. Traffic, laughter, life that didn't need permission to exist. I looked out and thought, this is what it feels like to own your peace. Not revenge, not distance, just enough space to breathe without owing anyone air.